projects and things of that nature. Anything to do financially with addressing plains, streets, flooding, drainage, detention, all of those sort of things. And then Proposition D has to do with parity of pay between firemen and policemen. I'll start with Proposition A. The city, and the typical procedure to do these projects has been to offer up to the citizens of the city $1 billion worth of projects. You put up the projects, you vote on the bond election, they have these billions of dollars like a credit card, and they use them to finance roads and bridges and drainage projects, whatever. And what typically happens is you have this billions of dollars like a credit card, you're paying over these 30 years. And about 15 years into it, another mayor needs more money on his credit card, so he refinances the bonds and extends the life another 30 years. And then you go another 10 or 15 years, and you refinance the bonds another 30 years. So you take Westheimer, and this is just an example, repaid in 1956 for $10 million, and it had a lifespan of about 30 years. And we're in 2016, and we're still paying on the damn thing because we keep refinancing it over and over and over again, and you never really pay it off. And it became silly. The bonded indebtedness of the city was in the billions of dollars for roads that we now consider to be obsolete, yet we were still having to refinance time and time again. The world was saying, this is crazy, we can't keep doing this, at some point you gotta pay off the ship. And I just want to go to the middle slide, just get to my graph for a second. And so it becomes just ludicrous to do it that way. So a group of people said, look, this is madness, let's stop and let's pay as we go. Let's only build roads and drainage and bridges and things that we can afford to pay for on an annual basis, okay? Now, when you do that, you still have this billions of dollars worth of debt that you've got to still pay off. So you've got to pay off the past mistakes, and you've got to allocate some amount of money for current projects and future. So of course, there's a growing pain. Of course, you're not going to build as many roads or do as many projects because you don't have any money. So we had this election, 2010, and it passed, and the language was moderately confusing. Go to my graph with the chart. So when you start in 2010, we're going to come back to some of the stuff. Keep on going, but just give you an idea.
Yeah, can you move a little to
I can.
Yes, so we can, so everybody on this side can see.
There's this big question. So you start in 2010.
There it is.
Okay, and you see that we owe this $2.2 billion over here. We've got to start paying it off. So we start collecting the election in 2010, I raised the money in 2011. This is on your basic water bill. Let's go down one more just so we say organized. You're my first reference of this deal to this here. So you figure out how do we get this money that we're going to pay off the back and what we're going to do. So they had 4 different ways that you're going to get the money. We have very little money in taxes, which might be some bond election. I mean, it's relatively insignificant, the amount of money that you get from taxes. But you get a little money from taxes over here. But you're really, with the money you're getting from taxes, you're paying off the old debt first. So any little bit of money you have is going to pay off the $2.5 billion. You get some money from TERSs and some money from TxDOT and some money from Metro. These are all dealing with drainage projects, roads and streets or whatever. But you're really getting the money based on the water bill, the impervious cover. So you get a water bill in Houston and every third month you get a drainage fee based on the percentage of your property that is pervious, okay? And of course, they weren't honest with people and said it was going to be $7, and it's never $7. It's always more than that, and that always pisses people off. But the reality of it is you need a certain amount of money to get the projects done. So I think the average bill is probably around $30 a quarter at the moment or whatever. So this is the main mechanism that you're using to pay for this sort of stuff. And you do have some sort of impact fees and permit fees. When you go to build a house and you take a 1,200 square foot bungalow and you're going to go build a 3,600 square foot house there, or add a garage apartment with 500 more square feet, there's an impact fee. We need more water capacity to pay for that. So you pay that fee as a part of your permitting deal. And we get hundreds of millions of dollars from these impact fees that we use to address predominantly detention more than roads. But these are these four kind of little mechanisms that you're using. People get mad at us about the drainage fee. I got it. But you need this money to pay. So let's go back to our little chart. So you start and you pass in 2010, you get a little money in 2011, but you don't have enough to do anything with it or whatever. You don't start paying down anything basically until about 2012, when you're starting to see that instead of the money, the debt going this way, the debt truly is going this way, and we are paying for new roads as we go. We're not adding any more debt, and in reality, you're paying down debt. And in the time period that we've had until election day, we will have paid almost $1.1 billion worth of debt, which is a good thing, and we will have spent about $800 million building roads with no new debt from those funding mechanisms. So we're paying for new projects while paying down the debt. At some point, you'll see that you'll have a lot more money. You have $100 and $50 is going to debt, $50 is going to new projects. When you pay down the debt, at some point, only $10 is going to debt, and $90 is going to go for new projects. So it's working as intended. They did a very bad job of explaining what I think is a really simple deal. The growing pains are in 2010, 11, 12, 13, and 14, when you're paying off debt and you don't have enough money to do new projects. People are pissed off, more things weren't done yet. You didn't have any money when you had to pay off the credit card first or whatever. So the process is truly working. We're building more things as we pay down more debt, okay? If this system is voted down, Proposition A, you can say continue to do this and pay as you go, or go back to the way that you were. It's really your only choices. Here's your choice A. Do you want to keep doing this? Or B, do you think this is a bad idea and you want to go back? And the only choice we will have is people will demand roads and drainage and flood projects. You will just put up $1 billion worth of bonds and you will have to go pay for that over an extended period of time.
Okay.
Yes.
So the water bill, I'm just.
Water bill pays for water.
Yeah. So we're in this, political scenario. Why doesn't the city explain how the money has been spent so far?
Happy to do so.
No, but I mean, like, advertising it.
We're trying. They make it too complicated.
Yeah.
They make it very, very, very complicated. It's a very big city. I can attempt to do it, and we can get bogged down into the weeds. But yeah, these projects, when we decide to do the intersection of Kirby and Westheimer, it's been built. It's a road. So you're building a road, that's a road project, but you're dealing with utilities, that's a utility project. You're dealing with drainage. All underneath there is the water of how we're pumping not only sewage out of the apartments across the street, but water to people, and they're not running in the same pipe. So you are running water somewhere, you're running sewer someplace else, and you're collecting storm water from the drain, and it's got to go someplace else. So all of those projects are under the street at Kirby and Westheimer. Plus you've got some metro funding there, or the bus stops. You have a lot of people funding this sort of deal. So it takes 5 to 6 to 7 years to go put together a project like that. You don't just build a road tomorrow. You got to coordinate with Centerpoint, Reliant, and all of those sort of entities or whatever. So the funding for that deal is in about 12 different places. You can't just go and say, where's the intersection of Kirby and Westheimer in the budget over here? It's just not that easy.
So you're saying voting for Prop A continues this path?
Yes, A is good. A is good, keeps us on the current path that we're on. Yes, people do mad about the drainage fee and impact fees or whatever, but I mean, this is really what you need. Otherwise, the alternative, and while some people say, well, we're just voting on the language, when you turn down the language, the court's going to say, well, then the fee is tied to the language. And it truly is tied to the language. This is a revote on whether or not you want to continue to do this.
Who's arguing against proposition?
Plenty of people that don't want to pay a drainage fee or an impact fee, or anyone that doesn't want any sort of tax, or someone that's demanding more roads quicker. Way to get more roads quicker is to borrow $5 billion and build more roads quicker. Because you will build more roads quicker if you borrow $5 billion. You'll just pay $35 billion for it over 100 years. This way, you're going to build less roads than you would if you used bond money, but you're paying as you go. You want to pay as you go.
The interest will be less. And
Interest will be, yeah, there'll be no interest at some point.
Yeah.
There'll be no interest on this,
So-
you know, it's not like we don't have bonds. We pay for a library with a bond. We pay for a park with a bond. We pay for this.
Cheaper roads, cheaper.
Absolutely, we don't have the interest cost. If you didn't have an interest payment, how would your house payment be? It'd be 1/3 of what it is over there, right?
How long has this pay down been in place?
Voted in 2010 and start collecting the fees until 2011. We didn't start spending the fees until 2012.
I think somebody started over there. I get a water bill and it says water and sewer. Is sewer drainage?
Sewage is drainage.
Oh, I'm paying for that monthly.
No, there's another truck.
You're getting a separate drainage fee every quarter in your water bill, a separate bill.
Oh,
You're getting a
okay.
separate bill for that.
So the quarterly, that third bill or whatever
Yes.
is higher than normal.
It's not related to your water usage. It's related to how much impervious cover you have on the tract of land that you own. So if you have a vacant lot, the lot in the back of my house gets no drainage bill because it's not impacting drainage. It's only
It's all
impacting.
grass.
That's right. If I had a parking lot, I'm gonna pay a higher amount than if I have a house with some grass around it. If you've been getting a drainage bill and you all of a sudden put in a swimming pool, your drainage fee is going to go up because you have less impervious cover, right? If you build a patio or extend your driveway, your drainage fee is going to increase because the amount of storm water runoff has increased because it doesn't go down anymore. It goes on over into the city's stormwater sewer drainage system, and we've got to deal with it.
Okay.
Remember when we all got those letters and we had a chance to protest? They said, this is how we figure your impervious cover if you want to
Yes.
protest.
That's it.
If I rip out my old driveway that looks like,
And you put in True Grid, your drainage fee would go down.
I'd
If
like
you put
to,
in
can I just put
impervious-
in, not coochie, but can I put in granite? I mean, and let it.
You can put in anything that allows the water to go right that
And I'm
direction.
gonna get a tax.
If you put a brick and it goes there, you can't go through that brick,
Okay.
your fee didn't go down at all.
Okay.
You put in True Grid, it goes down.
Okay.
How
So-
often do they check and see?
Once a year.
Once a year.
Once a year, and you can appeal at any particular time.
You can
There's a
show
clock.
your new driveway.
There you go,
Okay.
there you go.
All right, so the city, you know, not making any accusations.
I'm not thinking, I'm just explaining.
Okay, so what happens in other cities, they say, we're gonna use this money for this, and then they wind up reallocating it to something else. Is
It
there,
is a designated fee. It is a designated fee, but the fee will let them build a road. It will
Right.
let them build a road.
yeah, but I
It's
mean,
not just drainage. I want to be clear, because when you build roads, you're dealing with the drainage underneath the streets.
Right.
The people that bitch think we ought to only be doing drainage projects. Well, you can't, there's not enough money for the street, so you have to do the drainage and the street at the same time.
but I mean, if the citizens were assured that the city.
It's a designated fund. By law, this is a restricted fund. It has always been restricted. They are monitored. I'm telling you, if there was one gun that wasn't spent, there'd be another lawsuit that it hasn't been restricted. It is restricted. It's a designated fund.
Well, politics say that Prop B says y'all are not doing it correctly.
This is Prop A.
I know, but
We'll
the Prop B, you know,
talk
people,
about Prop B in a second.
no,
Let's go
I mean,
to
the people opposed to that are saying y'all are doing something different with the funds, and there needs to be a better,
Let me say.
yeah.
They would have liked all of this 1.3 billion to have paid this off. And
Right.
if you do that, you will never get a road. You have to get a road too. So you have to be able to pay off the old and spend some money on a road,
Right.
because that's how the drainage system works. So yes, they're mad that we didn't pay down more money, but this is what we had. This is what you had to
Yeah.
play. So, but yes, we're spending more money. We spent $800 million on roads over there.
Yeah.
From the drainage fee that they would have liked for us to pay down the debt, but then you
Right.
get no road.
I know,
You've
I'm
gotta
just
do
saying
both.
better communication from the city, will
Absolutely.
explain more, and
I'm not defending them. I do believe it should be more transparent and more accountable.
Or simple.
100%.
Or better explain.
Absolutely.
Why don't we put you on TV next?
Well, we're gonna see how I do practicing.
oh,
Okay, so
Seriously.
I'm not sure I need to go over anymore. I can get way into the weeds over here if you'd like, but I think that was probably simple enough, right? A is good. Vote for A. For people who do not want to vote for A, please explain to me on Earth how they intend to pay for any drainage projects or roads. How would we do it? The only way you can do it is either use the current property taxes, which means there's no money left over for roads, there isn't any extra, or borrow the money. Those are your options. So, I don't think this is overly controversial. I think we're revoting, but I think if you want to vote against it out of principle, you need to understand the consequence. The consequence is pretty stiff. No more pay as you go means severe problems of addressing drainage and flooding through the street system. So.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to Prop B.
Sure.
It's a little more complicated. Okay, so I just want to rattle off a couple of statistics while we go here.
Yes.
This issue B is regarding parity of pay between firemen and policemen within the city of Houston. The firemen went to the people and say, do you think firemen deserve a raise? Shouldn't they make the same as a policeman? 60,000 people within a week said yes. And that sounds very good, but it's not as simple as that, okay? They don't do the same jobs. They don't have the same roles and responsibilities. They don't have the same level of equipment or anything.
They don't work so well.
They don't work the same hours. They don't work the same way in the same hours. So their hours that they spend waiting for a fire
Yeah.
is different from a guy in a patrol car driving around constantly at risk, his 40 hours, versus this 47 hours. You're not constantly at risk over here. 85% of everything that we do in the Houston Fire Department is related to medical in the beginning. It's not fire. And while I do think someone having a heart attack is extremely important, and I do think this is the last one, not starting. And I do think getting a cat out of a tree is extremely important. I don't think that they're as risky as a cop who is subject to being shot any given minute. Okay? They're two different jobs. The police department, HPD, has a budget of $85 million right this second, 1,200 civilian people, and 5,200 officers out patrolling. Okay? HPD has a budget of $506 million, and they have basically 4,000 people in a uniform, and 108 people today are in the civilians work in the Houston Fire Department. 91% of their $506 million budget is personnel. Of the $506 million on the budget for the fire department, 91% of that is personnel. And like I said, when you give someone a raise, you can calculate real easy how much that is, because you take 91% of 506 million and you multiply that by the extra, and you can really calculate it very easily. No one knows statistics. Everyone knows that that's accurate. Okay, so we don't have the same presentation, I guess.
No, you didn't send it to me. I'm sending it to myself now.
Okay, so there is a lot of language on this ballot that's talking about equity. Now, I do believe firemen need a raise. I do believe that firemen are underpaid in our city and compared to other cities. But you've got to be able, and we can do this. This is Bill King, our staunchest opponent in the city, okay? Wants to run for mayor, okay? Let's just see what he says about this deal. This is an editorial that he recently wrote, so we can go down, we can talk about this. Basically, the way their pension system works is a fireman can work for 20 years and be fully vested in their retirement system and automatically receive 50% of their salary starting immediately. The longer you work beyond 20, the higher it gets. So you get a 26-year-old fireman that works for 20 years at 46. he starts collecting his retirement over here, and immediately, goes to work for another fire department, goes to Sugar Land, works for that Sugar Land Fire Department, and he works another 20 years over there. Okay? So with while we do start firemen off relatively low, they're on a 6-month probationary period, as are policemen or whatever, and they jump up to about $42,000 a year. Okay? But then after that, on average, you could take the salaries and divide by the 3,963 people. The average salary today of a fireman is, what does he say that it is? He mentions exactly what this is. But it's about $73,000. Go down to the very bottom, I think.
Right there.
More
76, that first sentence.
Well, that's
captain's.
Keep on going to the bottom. So the average pay of a fireman is about $73,000, and then their average pension is giving them another $34,000 basically a year.
After 20 years.
After 20 years. Go down to the bottom. Go down a little more. So after their 20 years, they've got about $1.6 million in their retirement plan. The average fireman at 20 years. You do not have an average of $1.6 million in your retirement plan after 20 years of being in real estate. I can assure you that you do not, or whatever. Okay, so they would like the parity today from the formula that they're using as a 25% immediate raise to the firemen, and then they would match to the policemen, which would be another 7% over 2 years. They would get what is basically a 32% raise over the course of the next 3 years, which is basically $100 million a year, $300 million the city would have to come up with in order to pay for the parity issue. I would argue that we're not now, and the police pension is not the same as the fireman's pension, so the police are not getting the exact same thing. Remember? They're all different pension plans over here. There's a municipal plan, there's a police plan, and there's a fire plan. By far, the fire plan is the most generous for the individuals that are there. So, well, I believe that they deserve a raise. They have not been willing to negotiate at the table. Come and meet with us, and let's find a reasonable deal. They were offered 9.5%. They want to argue the deal. They were offered a raise, and they would not accept that raise. They would rather the voters determine their raise. It's a little odd way for the city of Houston to be able to negotiate someone's salary when they're going to the voting box and having the voters vote on pay parity. I would explain to you, there is no parity between a policeman and a fireman. The way to negotiate is the way every other organization negotiates at the table with the stakeholders or whatever, and you can see how it's going to work.
Well, how are they getting away with taking before the voters?
That petition.
60,000 people said, do you think firemen should be paid the same as policemen? And 60,000 people said yes, and they got on the ballot. That's how they did it. There is no way to pay for it. So the only way to pay for it will, and yes, the firemen bring in $100 million, but they spend $506 million. Don't never let them forget that. Now, policemen bring in more than $100 million also. It's called a ticket. That you get a ticket, we get revenue, right? So the police bring in revenue. You don't want the policemen to generate their own revenue, right? It's actually illegal. You go write more tickets, you make more money.
Right.
Let's pretend like we don't go down that path, whatever. So, I mean, you have to be realization, where will the money come from? And we have a revenue cap, so the city can't just go out and just raise the taxes to offset this deal. You have to cut somewhere. It will lead to massive cuts somewhere. Some of them would be in the fire department. The police chief's plan is to cut then 953 policemen after the election. Do not want to go down the path of fear mongering and saying that you've got to do that. What I will say is if you add $100 million to the city's tax burden, you have to find some way to pay for it. And if 91% of it is personnel, you ain't cutting some copiers over there. That's not going to get you there. So you will have to then take the money from some other place Streets are a designated fund, so you're not gonna go get it from Rebuild Houston. You cut all the libraries, you cut all the swimming pools, you cut anything fun, and you make up about $40 million. You're still 60 million short. If you never had a library, you didn't open a swimming pool, you didn't do any enhancement like that, which this impacts lower income Houstonians, not higher income Houstonians, you still wouldn't have enough. So that gets confusing.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost $100 million. Is this the way that we think we ought to arrive at an appropriate pay for firemen and policemen? Goes up there and puts the raise for the fireman or the policeman up on the ballot. Okay? So Proposition B, parity of fire pay to policemen. Not sure there is parity between fire and policemen to begin with. $100 million increase to the city with no mechanism to increase the revenue. Offset the revenue something. Yes.
So we had a police officer come and speak at the Oakforce HOA, and he spoke briefly right into his presentation. He also mentioned something about parity, which is kind of compared it to the armed forces. So if you're a captain in the Navy, you are captain over the entire ship. And you have quite a number of people that are underneath. And that's basically a captain in the police force. If you're a captain in the Army, you're not very high up. You only have a few level of folks that are reporting to you. And so a captain in the Army and a captain in the Navy are not the same thing.
Exactly.
The captain in the fire department is not the same thing as the captain in the police department or repairs other things. So you're saying essentially when they want to parity, they want to parity by the same title, but the same title does not get you the same level of reporting and responsibility and everything else.
Firemen are scheduled 47 hours a week. Okay? In reality, they come in, and the average fireman, you do the deal, doesn't that, has about 15 hours of overtime or such per week. That's how they get extras. You can't just take their salary. We spent $234 million of their 506 is overtime. Okay? So the average fireman, forget what his base salary is, he's making overtime, time and a half on that little deal, and they come in. You can do the math as well as I can. Come in for 3 days. They work 3 days straight. They sleep for about 10 hours a day of that deal. Work out for a couple of hours or whatever, and you can get 60 hours in your 3 days pretty easily if you come in at midnight and you sleep till 8. You wake up, you eat, you work out, and in that course of that 60 hours, how many times do you think they really get called for a fire? Y'all see a lot of fire trucks running around here putting out fires? Not putting out any fires. Building code is working. It's safer to live in the city than ever. They're going to deal with someone who has a stroke or a heart attack or something of that nature, and they're carrying an EMS truck and a fire truck and 5 people, almost cost of,
It is expensive.
thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And while I don't want to diminish the value of a fireman and put their life at risk, I'm not saying that. You're saying this issue is not the way to arrive at parity. Really smart people can sit together at a table and say, let's give them a raise. Let's give them a raise that we can afford. Let's look at the other issues, the equipment and the things of that nature, and see what's best.
So the cost, if you had an issue at your house, the ambulance comes. The ambulance, they charge you $256.
I thought it was 1,000.
It just depends if it's private or if it's city.
Yeah. Or if city comes.
Yes, they do.
So why not just triple the rate? Because
The average person that you're billing the $250, which with the fees, never pays the fee to begin with, doesn't have the ability to pay the fee. The people that are calling EMS typically are people who cannot afford to go to the doctor or the clinic or some other choice. So the average person that we're billing, we're not collecting to begin with.
Right.
And someone making $20,000 a year, when they get a $10,000 ambulance bill, it's bankrupting them to begin with.
Right.
So if we were so inclined to want to talk about our opposition to Proposition B, what would be some of the best ways to do that?
We believe that it's not reasonable for any entity within the city to negotiate their raise at the ballot box.
I'm not.
There's
If I want to talk to, if I want to say social media or have conversations.
Well, that's what I would say, is that's what they say in the Chronicle. It's not reasonable to negotiate the raises at the ballot box. That's not reasonable to begin with. No one is debating that they deserve a raise. So, I mean, we've offered them a raise at 9.5%.
Right.
And will continue to look at other ways in which to do it.
Did they reject that?
They rejected it every time. They've rejected over multiple mayors, not even just this mayor. They've rejected their raises since actually 2014, well, even 2 years even before the Turner administration. So everyone agrees they're entitled to a raise. Mayors, city council want to give them a raise, want to give them what is an affordable, reasonable raise, and look at other things that can make the fire department more efficient.
Do you have off the top of your head what the average police is earning now? Comparable to the 73K of the firemen?
In year 5, they make about the same thing in reality. It's just, I mean, their jobs are different.
Overtime.
The jobs are different. The jobs are different. But I'll find out exactly what.
You stated that.
We don't have all that overtime for police. In the 2018 budget for HPD, there was zero money allocated for overtime. Told them it'd be more efficient.
You said in the $5 million budget for the 500
506.
million for the fire, that 91% of that was towards personnel. What is it on the police side?
It's probably close to about 85%.
Because the other part is what, towards equipment and, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
just another idea. So, you know, I don't know if you pay your water bill, your electric bill, they ask you, do you want to donate $1 to whomever? Why not just say, why don't we ask people to donate $1 to the fireman's fund? Yeah.
You can look at all options.
I mean, that's a win-win situation because it really doesn't cost any money, and you might be surprised how many people throw the dollar up, you know?
The world is not going to end if Proposition B passes. It's just going to cause a financial strain to the city that must be addressed. You're going to address some of it within the PayPal. You're going to somehow take it out of the fire department. Because it's just not fair to take it all out of someplace else. You're not going to, it's not realistic to think you're going to take the money from the general fund and add $100 million over the fire department without cutting something. You're going to cut something.
They have a plan for cuts. Yeah. If they turn down 9%, what are they asking? What percent?
They want 25%. They want 25. They would automatically get a 25% raise. If you just do a captain to a captain, dispatcher to a dispatcher, that's what you would get.
So if we're cutting 900 policemen, how many firemen are we cutting?
No, 953 firemen.
Oh, 950, and how many policemen do we have to cut?
Let's just say hundreds. You'd cut a cadet class, you would cut
And 953 is what percentage is?
25%. You would go from 4 shifts to 3 shifts. You would eliminate the number of firemen in the system, and you would end up with a little more overtime, but it would still be more efficient. That's the current plan.
Why somebody would want to raise, it means that so many of their folks have actually did.
Yeah.
So it's not how hard.
It's just a game of chicken. Just a game of chicken.
Well, you can,
So again, why doesn't, like, you know, I had questions about like the mayor, but the way he handled Harvey, nobody should have ever had to deal with that, but he came out looking fantastic. So why doesn't he get on TV?
And he does. It's $2.5 million for the TV commercial. Where would you like for me to get the $2.5 million?
Right.
It's not easy. The TV commercials have started. You can probably Google one and find one. It's actually pretty good. Google the Sylvester Turner part.
I mean, but the point is, he could spend $1,000 on his reelection deal and win. He does. I mean, I just think
he spent his money on all of these issues. What he said.
Yeah.
So he's out at these town hall meetings, one in every district council. So there's 16 meetings that you go. But in reality, there's 100 city people there and 50 people not city people there. So we're capturing with these 16 meetings 5,000 people when 450,000 people are going to vote. We're not capturing enough people at the meeting. Nobody seems to care. So, and you see the signs out there. You've seen plenty of them. Support Prop B or whatever. But all of those sort of things.
Yeah, but why doesn't
the commercial?
Why doesn't the TV just give him free airtime?
But they can't just do that.
Because they'll get the other side.
The Chronicle is against this. Everyone that's done any editorials is against it. But it's still hard to get to the population and think, yes, firemen should make more. Should firemen make more? Yes, firemen should make more.
Right.
Everyone should make more.
Emotional
That's right.
attachment to firemen, you know?
We'll find a little video.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
got a video that we can play. All right. Questions about Prop B? A, good, B, bad. Okay. All right. A, good, B, bad. Or vote the way you want. It's not, like I say, gotta work some out. Okay, let's talk about, because I think Leslie had a question, this is good, about garden oaks or whatever, and how this is currently working. And I do think they're gonna do a mess over there with regards to this GOMO fee. So remember, you've got two entities. You've got the Garden Oaks Civic Association, and you've got the Garden Oaks operating whatever it is here. So you've got GOMO and you've got the Civic Guild. GOMO was the mechanism to enforce the deed restriction, and this is where you pay the 0.75% of a fee of 1% on every sale of the transaction over here. They are in several lawsuits, which led them to declare bankruptcy, which led a whole reevaluation of their fees. Just click on the one down, whatever it says. So the current judge, the current status says you cannot collect a fee, okay, from the period of August 17th until October 25th. There will be a hearing, okay? So if you have a closing between August 16th and October 25th, they're not going to collect the fee on your settlement statement. That much I know. If you have a closing on October 25th and thereafter, I think it's uncertain. So we don't know the answer of what's going to happen over there. So I think people who are under contract probably know if they're going to close before October 25th or not. But yeah, you're going to have to disclose this information to a buyer that while they're not subject to a fee, August 16th through October 25th, they are subject to a fee as a result of whatever the judge rules on October 25th, or could be delayed significantly thereafter. I have met with them. There is a creditors committee who are making recommendations to the judge who can do whatever he wants. They can reduce the fee, they can eliminate the fee, they can reinstate the fee. They do whatever they want over there. I think you're going to see a change. There has been an evaluation. There is no longer any other real subdivision left in the state of Texas that does this sort of thing. Oh. They don't do it. They do it for a short period of time and then they expire, and this never really did expire. So being a liberal Democrat, Republican, red, conservative, you can't see where they're going to continue the way that it was. Have some ability in it. The Heights Association enforces deed restrictions just fine over here, as does Crestwood, as does Norhill. We're like, we don't collect any mandatory fee at closing, and works just fine. And in fact,
Where did that fee start?
it started with the sale of the subdivision.
Okay.
It's incorporated into the deeds at the sale of the subdivision.
What's that used for?
It used to, the sole purpose of the money is to enforce deed restrictions. The money is designated to enforce deed restrictions, not plant flowers. They spend a lot of money on deed restrictions. You'd be surprised. Heights Association spent less than $1,000. We have a lot more houses than they do. So I think when you evaluate other best practices, it's not a very good practice. I don't get a vote in that deal. I'm just explaining how it's working. So I mean, I just want you to know what's going on over there.
What was the fee before, and do we have an idea of like what?
Yeah, 0.75 of 1% of the closing cost. So if you sold $1 million house,
Okay.
it was $7,500.
And section 4 got out of that.
Section 4 is the only section that didn't have it.
How did they do that?
Section 1.
I don't know if that's
That's
true.
weird.
Just,
That's
a lot of money.
earlier.
okay. Yes.
So I've got closing happening before October 25th. They would if they're gonna reenact the fee, would that be retroactive? Or
Will
are
not.
people just gonna luck out and not have to?
Those people will luck out because the collection is only at closing, so there's no mechanism to go back and collect for the people that didn't collect. Won't be able to do that.
Go sell some houses in Garden Oaks, man, right?
Yeah.
Do I?
Go sell some houses in Garden Oaks before the end of.
Yeah. Okay. We clear on what's happening here. I think if you get under contract October 15th, closing in November 15th, they're going to be in total limbo. Not gonna know what's gonna happen. No one can tell you what's gonna happen.
Until the judge decides.
The only thing that could happen is he said, we're not gonna meet October 25th, we're gonna meet November 25th, and that would extend that period, which you halting the collection. Now,
Did you say?
Domo would love for you to voluntarily donate the money to them, and they do have a campaign. You go there and still pay your fee into your,
Even though we're gonna be in limbo, would you say that the likelihood that the max that they would collect would be what they had to pay?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
I
you
think you
divide your
can say the fee is not going up. I think you can compromise that. This has historically been the fee. The fee is historically higher than anyone else in the state of Texas.
That's ridiculous.
It's been that way for a lot of years.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and they got a little out of hand.
They got a little out of their weed restrictions.
Got a little out of hand. All right, any questions about Garden Oaks over here? This was good, Lynn.
So this is all new.
Uh-huh.
So if I have a buyer,
I think this is what I would do, is,
like who?
I think we need to go to, this is, I would print out this page, I would put it on information from other sources, and I would then attach that to your mandatory homeowners association form and say, see attached, and this is the information that we have, because this is really all that you have. You're still in a deed restricted subdivision. We just don't know what the fee is to enforce the deed restrictions. You can certainly have a homeowners association that enforces deed restrictions that doesn't collect mandatory fees. You can have voluntary fees. Your fees could be $100 a year. It would be fair to pay the cost of enforcement to every homeowner, not just those that are selling a house or buying a house, the buyer typically paying for it. Yes.
Was the cause of the bankruptcy, do you know
Yes,
that?
abuse of powers of enforcement of deed restrictions. And the judgment which calls their liabilities to be greater than their assets, which calls the need for bankruptcy.
Can you send us that page?
Yes, we will.
And it's not only for mandatory, it's like.
That's correct. Yep.
Just Garden Oaks.
Just start notes.
Oh, just that.
This is just Garden Oaks. What else would y'all like to talk about today? Office is going fine. Honestly, we're hung up right this second over the commercial kitchen that I have installed by putting a Viking range over there with the vent hood. And at some point I'll yield, but I wasn't going to yield yet. I could take out the range and build a little microwave drawer, but I wanted the ovens over there for the caterers time. We do not have a commercial kitchen. It's a residential kind of setup over there, but we're gonna see by about Friday, I'll be willing to yield, but see if I have any influence with the city. We resubmitted back on Friday, the documentation, but at some point, we had that. We're going to build out the fun stuff, the hardwood floors and the brick walls and some of that sort of stuff, but we're not commercial people. So we have been bidding out the commercial MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and I let the contractor bid thinking that was gonna be my best bet, and the price was about 3 times higher than I really thought it should be. We cranked out the meeting today, a new group to see what we can do there. It's really a box. It's not that complicated to build a box. It's just really not. So I think we'll kick out a permitting this week or the first of next week. Start with, there is AC there, then go run the electrical and do the plumbing. And I suspect that we will be finished over there in December. I really think that we will. I am not going through the hell of that at Christmas. I'm going to enjoy Christmas. I'm going to let Mary Ann enjoy Christmas. Let Aaron enjoy Christmas, and we'll move in over there sometime in January. We'll keep this open through January. I'm not going to close one day and move the next. Life is just not worth it to me. So we told them here. We told them they could put up there for lease sign here sometime in November, because I think I'll have a more firm time, whatever. But I basically committed this spot through January and move in there. Beginning of. End of January here, move over there at the beginning of January.
Could we put a sign next to their for lease sign saying that we're moving?
Here? Oh, yeah, we will. We met with the signage people for our new signs. We're going up there relatively soon. We are the design coordinator for that whole thing, so I had to come up with signage criteria for every space for 5 years from now. The color, the font, the install, the location, the size, and so it's a little complicated. You got 3 levels, you got the canopies. So on the canopies, there's signage for the downstairs tenants, but they don't have signage on the main building. So then you have to get the sizes of the letters based on the quantity of the deals. Of course, everyone wants their color. The restaurant wanted red, and we're not doing all that. And then it's another level of consistency. And I hate what they're doing to the glass wall, that BCK and all that. I mean, it's getting uglier and uglier and uglier over there. At some point, I want a lovely, beautiful look. So the signage will go up soon for us, and then we can, yes, put the signage up here, look for us there, because then the signage will be on the canopy and on the building. But I don't want our clients to start going over to that building looking for us. Getting a nail in their tire.
I just don't want people to think that we're crazy in here.
Yeah, you say future home of Boulevard Rails.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions. One's a real estate question,
Okay.
and the other one is, will we get a chance to go over and see the space before we move in, or will
We can go right now. I mean, it's perfectly open, but yes, we can have a little tour there next Tuesday if we want. Why don't we do that after the sales meeting next Tuesday? We can go over there. The space is phenomenal. It's truly phenomenal. There's a fine balance of open space and communal space. Remember, you got 6,000 square feet. You got a 2,000 square foot patio. You got another 2,000 square feet down below. I have toured and looked and read and continue every day to look at the latest, greatest trends that aren't the stupidest thing on earth. So Nan and Company, they're building, and they want to talk all about nano sleeping pods, so that you can take a little nap over here next to Jerry. Now, when Jerry gets out of there, you're going to pop in the nano sleeping pod and sleep there right after Jerry. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but we are not going to have nano sleeping pods. I do like a ping pong table. I'll be honest with you. I love to go to Sid Maxburn and play ping pong in the afternoon. I do it with my kids. We like it. But ping pong makes a whole lot of noise and distracts some other people. So you're having to, I don't need 52 flavors of St. Arnold's beer on tap. You don't really need that, right? I mean, we can have 8. There's a balance. There's a balance of what you want. And I think it's going to be fine. We can have that call.
So, are you trying to tell us that you're gonna eliminate the crying room?
Yeah.
There's no crying rules.
But no, that's that. Go ahead.
I have another real estate question when we're done
We're done with that.
Okay. So, this is a scenario where if you have a husband and wife who are getting divorced, and you bring them a full price contract, and they both, one wants to sell, the other one doesn't want to sell, but it's being made to sell. So now it's time, and the one that doesn't want to sell is delaying by saying that they are now going to buy the house, that they are going to come up with the money to buy the house, but they can't come up with it quickly, and you're worried you're going to lose your buyer that's on the line there. So what do we do? Do we just say that the real estate fee is going to be, it's going to have to be paid?
No, we're not gonna
I'm just wondering, because you were
it's just the way it works. That's just, you got 4 sellers, whether they're married or not. One doesn't want to sell, they're not selling.
I have, but one of them wants to put pressure on the other one.
They all do, because they're sleeping with the new secretary. They want to get out of those relationships and move on with the next one, but there's nothing you can do there.
Okay, so you just let them both wait it out until one decides.
So they're both in agreement.
So they're both in agreement. Let that offer.
You're just gonna hope that if you found one, you're gonna find another.
All right.
That you're just stuck there. Because if not, it's
This
a big old hell.
is a
Or you just try you try to tell them to take the emotion out of it. This is just a business transaction.
Yeah, but that bastard cheated on me, and I'm gonna get everything I can out of him because I didn't work for 30 years, and he got to sleep with the fucking secretary, and I'm gonna get my money. Yeah, that's exactly what they say.
Yeah, I
They're
know that.
not in any hurry to sign. They want their money. They're entitled to it.
Well, you don't get the money until we sell the house.
I understand, but there's always a difference in value. There's always one thinks it's worth something, the other thinks so. It's best when they both want to move on.
Well, they all agree that this price that I listed, that this friend listed it at was way too high. I mean, they both thought that it was high, and if we got that, hallelujah. But now that it's there,
Yeah.
and they've got it.
There's always other issues. There's the furniture, the 401k, and, you know, who has the rights. There's just more issues. So they're both on the same page. You know. I did get approved for my floodplain ordinance, mandatory. You can call me Professor Baldwin now. And so I need to practice with this little deal. It's a 2-hour class. So what we might do is start a sales meeting at 9 o'clock and run to 11.
Good.
Let me practice with my own agents here just a little bit before I go on my dog and pony show across the world
We get
here.
MCE for that.
You'll get 2 hours of MCE credit for that. And then we made application for another 2-hour class on the realtor in the city and the same thing. I'm going to get practice here. I don't know if we should practice next week or what. If we don't have to get a major topic, we probably will.
I need 2 hours
Okay.
before the
There
end
you
of
go.
November. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I've already,
Yeah.
the class is approved and I'm
Yay,
great. So I mean, now it's just a matter of, I need to schedule
I
through
need 2
HAR.
hours would be
I'm gonna do
great.
some classes at HAR, but I wanna go
Yeah.
to Martha Turner and Heritage. And
You get charged for it?
I don't charge anything. Do they charge anything?
Harm may make you at a certain point.
Because you have to give them a little certificate
You
or
do.
something.
Yeah, you should get an honorarium.
I told Scott Wynn and about
Donate to
this
the
class, and they said,
Yeah.
here in the office, they like sponsor and bring kolache.
Oh, great.
So,
Good.
I love
I think it'll be good. It'll be good to practice. I've been practicing, but practice again. I like the other class better than the playing one, but it's okay. That's what the horror wanted to start with this
Yeah.
one. that's-
So your Tuesday meeting is 2 hours and a tour.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that next week. Move on.
That'd be great.
Okay, that's all I have. I'm around if anyone needs something.
9 o'clock.
Yes, you do. 9 o'clock next week. That'll be fine.